There's no question that deforestation leaves the balance of humanity and the balance of the planet poorer and more impoverished. It's a short-term economic gain that benefits few at the expense of the many. Deforestation is the practice of cutting down forests for various different reasons, but it's fundamentally cutting down trees and leaving behind a vast open wasteland. Deforestation is most common in countries like Brazil, Indonesia, and Mexico, Papua New Guinea, and Russia. The main causes of deforestation can be classified into three categories. Basically, industrial uses, chopping down the forest to build factories or to build residential areas. The second one is agriculture, so cutting down forests in order to grow, for example, palm oil plantations. Agricultural deforestation can also be caused by non-food crops, for example, pulp and paper plantations. And the third cause is livestock. So in many places, for example, in Brazil, deforestation is caused by farmers clearing the land to create pasture land for cows. Deforestation can happen on a lot of different scales. It can be anything from illegal squatting, a dozen folks in a local village using small rudimentary chainsaws and cutting down the trees. And then, of course, on the other end of the spectrum is massive industrial scale deforestation, where they bring in lots of heavy machinery, very advanced technology, and they can go in and clear forests in a very short amount of time. Deforestation affects the environment in two main ways. Trees, of course, absorb carbon dioxide, and as human beings put more and more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, the more trees we cut down, the more we hinder the ability of the planet to balance how much carbon is in the atmosphere. But another impact of chopping down forests is, of course, reducing the habitat for animals to live in. Every year, over 1,000 different species go extinct around the world. That is a conservative estimate, and a big chunk of that happens because of deforestation.
It is believed that automobiles account for 14% of global carbon emissions, but deforestation accounts for 15% of global carbon emissions. Deforestation is causing more carbon emissions than automobiles. It may come to a shock that trees are actually releasing more carbon dioxide into the global atmosphere than automobiles are. But why? Trees take in carbon dioxide and release oxygen. Before trees release the oxygen into the atmosphere, they store the carbon for a brief period of time. This is why when humans cut down trees, they are releasing their carbon reservoirs, and carbon is sent back into the atmosphere.
In Indonesia, a moratorium on new forest development appears to have little effect as farmers and large companies continue cutting down trees for timber, then burning off the land to create palm oil plantations. The moratorium in Indonesia is part of a $1 billion deal with Norway to protect forests that store vast quantities of carbon dioxide, or CO2, one of the greenhouse gases that many scientists say contribute to global warming. It is one of over 300 such projects in 52 countries such as Bolivia and Tanzania under a United Nations initiative called REDD, reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation. So far, most of these projects have yielded only modest reductions in greenhouse gas emissions. Fred Boltz, a senior vice president at Conservation International, says progress on REDD has been slow because it involves much more than preventing forest fires.
We're talking about transforming the global economy, the paradigm for valuing forests, recognizing their importance in meeting our climate challenges. And that transformation is complex. It's going to take time. It's going to take a lot of financial and intellectual investment.
He says to succeed, REDD needs better enforcement, greater incentives for business to take part, and more money than the $10 billion already promised. Environmentalists say both big companies and impoverished farmers need help to meet the world's growing needs for food, fuel, and minerals without cutting down forests. But Bolt says there is a global consensus that strong measures must be taken to reduce deforestation, which produces more greenhouse gas emissions than all the cars, trucks, and planes in the world, to prevent catastrophic global warming.
Deforestation constitutes about a sixth of our problem, and if we don't solve the entirety of the problem, we lose. So there is that political will and recognition of the urgency and the necessity of resolving RED.
Bolt says at the climate conference in Doha, he expects incremental progress to be made to link effective regulation to increase funding for conservation. Brian Patton, VOA News.
Deforestation has been placing many animal species on the endangered list. I'm going to be focusing on one animal that has become the rarest animal in the world because of deforestation. This animal is called the Javan rhinoceros. These animals can grow between 1.4 and 1.7 meters tall. They also can weigh between 900 and 2,500 kilograms. They also can live 35 to 40 years in the wild. These animals live in Indonesia. Indonesia is currently deforesting their jungles to create farmland. These animals are losing their homes at such a rapid rate. Now there are only 60 Javan rhinos left in the world. Trees release moisture into the air. This is called transpiration. Transpiration helps the air become moist and allows rain clouds to form. Deforestation removes many trees at once, causing the air to become less moist, thereby preventing rain clouds to form. As a result of this, more droughts are starting to occur. For instance, the drought in California last year. Since deforestation has been picking up, so has California's drought. California's drought has worsened, causing many farmers to lose their jobs. California exports about 15% of the nation's crops. When California could not export enough crops, the effect was that people all around the world starved.